September 23rd at 6 on Channel 11.
Kick it.
Welcome to Splat Attack, a podcast honoring the slime-filled past. I'm your Jesse and the Rippers fan, Manny. Guess.
And I'm your Wake Up San Francisco co-host, Alex. And Manny, that's your cue, dude.
What? I'm not talking to you until you apologize for what you said earlier.
Wait, what? What did I say?
You know what you said.
No, I don't.
Look, if you need to say something, you can tell it to either Meg or Heather. And then they can tell me.
How exactly are you going to co-host a podcast episode if you two aren't speaking to each other?
I mean, can't you guys get it together long enough for the recording? I mean, I was really looking forward to this one.
Fine. But as soon as this is over, I'm giving Alex the silent treatment until he apologizes.
You know, this might just be one of those weird little misunderstandings.
Yeah, if this was a 90s sitcom, but this is reality.
Funny you should say that, though, because today we are doing a retrospective for one of our favorite 90s sitcoms, Full House, and we have family here to help us out. Obviously, we have my lovely wife, Megan, and we have Manny's lovely wife, Heather. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Ooh,
So we're just putting aside our differences, right?
I think
We're
you
going to set
should.
aside our differences for this episode for now. We're going to worry about this later.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'm always looking for excuses to have my wife on so we can share about our experiences watching some of these shows. Boy Meets World we got to do last season. I think it was last season, and that was a lot of fun. Now, Feeney! It's so much fun, and as soon as we were done with that one, I said the next one's got to be Full House, because I think Boy Meets World was your favorite, but Full House was your second?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've watched Full House more than I did Boy Meets World, actually.
I think I would be in the same boat. Like, Boy Meets World was my favorite, but I watched more Full House. And I think being the oldest of three sisters, I identified better, obviously, because I'm not a boy meeting the world with Full House. So I watched it a lot more and just rewatched it too with my sisters. So
I unfortunately didn't grow up with Full House. I don't know why. I just never really watched it. I was more of a America's Funniest Home Videos guy, so I knew about Bob Saget and his humor, and I loved it. So I got into Full House, I think, right when we got together, around 2017, 2018. You were like, let's watch Full House. I'm like, I don't know. This is like, I've seen everybody make fun of like, oh, the cardigan sweaters and the silly jokes and the sappy, huggy, lovey-dovey moments. So I was like, I don't want to watch this. And I watched it and I'm like, wow, you know what? This is actually pretty funny. And I liked what I saw. So very new to it. I enjoyed Boy Meets World too when I was younger as well, but Full House was a whole new experience for me.
Yeah, Full House for me, it was one of those shows that I watched religiously. Once I knew there was a new episode coming out, I was always watching it. Even if there were reruns, I would watch them. There weren't many sitcoms outside of Nickelodeon that I watched. I would watch Saturday morning cartoons. I would watch TV shows after school, and then it would be on Nickelodeon, and that was mostly it. Full House, I think, was the only sitcom that I watched for a long time as a kid, and I loved the show. Just before we go into our favorites and questions and things that Kat had typed out for us, because we got some fun stuff to talk about, we'll give a brief history of it for those of you who are listening. And if you're listening to a Full House episode and you don't know the brief history, what are you doing listening to a Full House episode? But if you are uninitiated, then here are some basics. The history of the show is about Danny Tanner, who is a widowed husband raising his 3 daughters with the help of his brother-in-law Jesse and his comedian best friend Joey. The show was created by Jeff Franklin. It premiered on September 22nd, 1987, with the episode Our Very First Show. And the finale was on May 23rd, 1995, with Michelle Rides Again, Part 2. Interestingly enough, Bob Saget was not the original Danny, which is true. John Posey played Danny in the Unaired Pilot, and he was under contract to host CBS's The Morning Program, and Bob Saget replaced him before Full House debuted on ABC. And I think you can even watch that Unaired Pilot on the DVD.
I found it online.
It was weird.
It's available. It completely changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
Same characters, same script, but a whole different dynamic shift. And that's how this feels. It feels very different. It's not bad. It's not, it just feels weird.
It's like you said, an alternate dimension. It was like a weird chemistry because I could see him, like I said, I see him being
The
their
dad.
dad. He looks more like the girls because the curly hair, and then that would explain why they have curly hair because their mom was blonde.
He's a lot shorter too.
And they're shorter. So I could see like, oh, he seems more like he would be in a family portrait with them. But the acting was completely different. The chemistry was just, and I don't know if it's because I'm so used to seeing Bob Saget or if it's just a different acting.
To me, it felt like more if there was 2 Joeys. Because that was his sense of humor too, because he was doing a little bit of voices too, like Joey does. Oh, that's so, it's just off.
And just to finish up with our basic trivia before we go into the meat and potatoes, the cast for the show, we have Bob Saget as Danny Tanner, Dave Coulier as Joey Gladstone, Candace Cameron as DJ Tanner, Jodie Sweetin as Stephanie Tanner, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen as Michelle Tanner, Lori Laughlin as Rebecca or Becky Donaldson, Andrea Barber as Kimmy Gibbler, Scott Weiner as Steve Hale, Blake, here we go with the names, Kimmy Wilhoit, and Dylan Kimmy Wilhoit as Nikki and Alex Katsopoulos, and Comet as Comet. I did leave one intentionally out. We have John Stamos as what is known throughout most of the series as Jesse Katsopoulos, but in the first 2 seasons, he had a different last name, and I always forget what it was.
Jesse Cochran.
Jesse Cochran.
He was Scottish. Cochran.
Tell those listening, why did he have the name change?
He wanted to have it reflect of his Greek heritage because he's John Stamos is Greek, which they actually end up honoring later in the series. So,
Opa!
His dad actually was like, "What is this Cochrane thing?"
Yeah. What is that?
They talk about it in
the Joey podcast.
Dave
Coulier's podcast.
One of the first few episodes, I just started listening to it. They actually addressed it when I think it was when John Stamos was on. It was a busy day.
I don't know if he was joking or not, but he said like he can't carry a tune, and I'm like, are you lying, dude? Like you can sing, man.
Yeah, he's a great singer. I mean, the guy's done musicals, and he even guest starred on Glee, so of course he can sing. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just pulling our leg.
I think so too.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. I'm the fan, right? So,
Well, the first question that we have, and Manny has pretty much answered for already. When do you first remember watching the show? Let me try to say that again without mumbling. When do you first remember watching the show? Heather, when do you remember watching it?
I just remember, so I would have been almost 4 when it came out, so I don't think I was watching it then. Probably later seasons. But like you said, I remember watching it like every week, and being upset if I had to miss a week, and not being upset if it was rerun. I was like, whatever. But like I said before, I identified with DJ because I was the big sister and I had these little ones looking up to me. And it's like, don't screw it up. Don't screw it up.
you did the donut sandwiches.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
right? I know
the cheese donut.
cheese donut. Yeah, that's
Was
what it
that
was.
Michelle? Or no, was
That
that
is-
Stephanie?
That was Stephanie.
She made cheese donuts, and my sisters always wanted cheese donuts as a kid. Just take the American cheese slice and you bend it in half and bite out the middle, and
And
it's
there
a
you
cheese
go.
donut. And they used to put like French dressing on it and sprinkle minced onions.
Trying to make it fancy.
Because I was young, I wasn't really allowed to cook like meals. I couldn't use the stove at that time, but my mom worked night turn, so she would have to sleep in the morning, and so I would watch my sisters during the summer. And they were like, I was allowed to make like toast and then make that into grilled cheeses like in the microwave to like melt the cheese, and I was allowed to like do spaghettios. So like they'd be like, I don't want spaghetti. So I was like, do you want a cheese donut?
When do you remember watching Full House for the first time?
So I'm horrible at remembering my childhood. Like I remember some things, but it's like I've blanked since then. But of course, obviously, I didn't start watching the show when it aired because I wasn't born yet. I was on the verge. My mom was very much pregnant. But yeah, what I can recall is probably finding it in when the show was nearing toward the end of it. So that's when I started watching it because I was very much a huge Mary Kate and Ashley fan. I like had all their videos and all their You're Invited stuff. Like I was obsessed. I even like begged my mom to let me be in their fan club, and I never got to. But so I had started watching Full House when they were re-airing them on Nick at Night, and started, getting there. And then of course they were still, the later seasons were still, I think, finishing up on ABC. But yeah, I have horrible memories of like, oh, I remember what the first time I watched. I don't remember the first time. I just know I grew into it and loving it. My parents used to make fun of me for watching because they would make fun of the show with all the and like,
See,
woo!
that's my family too. They would make fun of me if I was like, I kind of want to watch this. And like, you want to watch that? Like, I could totally hear my parents saying that.
but I'm like, at least it's clean. Like, thanks, mom. Like, come on. Although my mom was like a big fan of John because he was very.
Who is she not a fan of? That woman drools over any man more than
I
a
know
hormonal teenage girl.
he's aged gracefully, but 'cause I don't remember which soap he was on, but he was very well known because of
Zest.
General Hospital.
General Hospital. That's right, because I remember Candace Cameron talking about she was a fan of him. Like she's like, I had this huge crush, and here he is coming in to play my uncle, and it was so weird.
Like a weird name. I was like Blackie or something like really
Probably something like that.
awkward.
I can't remember. But yeah, it was a weird name.
This was one of those shows that was always on throughout my childhood. When the
Mhm.
show came on, I was only 2 years old, but my parents were always trying to find safe, family clean shows that we could watch together as a family. So, like, we watched The Cosby Show all the time. I don't remember watching it as a kid, but mom and dad swear that I enjoyed it when I was a kid. And Family Matters, we had that on a lot, but
Mhm.
I don't remember watching much of that. But I remember watching Full House, and I don't know what it was about the show. The first few seasons, I don't remember seeing when I was a kid. We have pictures in the photo album where it'll just be us in the living room playing with toys or something, and
That's
in the
yeah.
background you see Full House on the TV. But really, it's around season 5 when I start to remember the show the most. And it was just because I was older by that time, and I remember the show was always on, but I don't remember the episodes that much.
Yeah.
But from season 5 on, those really stuck with me. I think it was right around Jesse and Becky's wedding that I really started to pay attention because it felt big for the first time to me. I know they had bigger episodes up to that point, but that was really the first big cliffhanger thing for me. Seeing Jesse hanging from his parachute stuck in the tree, that will always that was the moment when I started to perk up and pay attention a whole lot more. Well, the next question we have, and I'll ask Megan this first, and I know the answer to this question. Who is your favorite character, both as a kid and as an adult? Who's your favorite character?
Easy. Stephanie was always my favorite. She was sarcastic and she was very funny, and I wanted to be her. And she could dance, and that's another reason why I wanted to be her. To this day, I think Jodie Sweetin is great. I would. She's probably the one out of all of them the most I wanted to meet. Even though I was obsessed with Mary Kate and Ashley, I did love Michelle too because, again, my obsession with them. But as far as like character on the show, Stephanie, like, even though she was the middle child, I felt like to me she stood out the most. She had the best lines. I felt like she had the best jokes aside from the adults. But I mean, I always thought her bits were funnier than Michelle's little known bits. So
You had a note that you said last night. I want to make sure to mention this in the podcast tomorrow.
oh yeah. The fact that she sends it, we watched the last episode we finished watching was DJ's 13th birthday, and she sends in Michelle to take a picture of the party so she can figure out, who everybody is. Well, of course, Michelle doesn't get the picture, and they decide as a fan, she's like, she tells them, you guys can come through, say hello, and then,
And then go away.
and she keeps asking, which one's Kevin, which is the guy that DJ had a crush on, the kid. And so finally they're in there and they're all saying goodbye. And she says, bye, Kevin. And he goes, bye. And she's like, that's him. And I'm like, that's genius. Genius. Ew. Ew.
Oh
She's
man,
so
that is
genius.
smart.
Jodie Sweetin
Like-
was actually the first person cast for the show, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, I believe it. She is phenomenal. Like, I hate that, I know she had some rough goings on as she got older and whatnot, but I'm glad to see she's overcome that.
Yeah, but where she's at now
Now
is amazing.
And she's such a great comedic actor. I'd love to see her do some more things. And yeah, true.
And you also said one of her favorite things is the insults that she has towards Kimmy,
Yes.
especially the later seasons.
So good. So good.
Heather, what about you?
I loved DJ growing up. I just felt like kindred spirit with her. But I had such a crush on Joey, or not Joey. John-
Ooh,
Joey
Joey?
had a crush on Jesse. Yeah.
Jesse, John Stamos. So like, just have mercy. As an adult though, I feel like you said, like, I think Stephanie's my spirit animal now. Like, just the things she says, I'm like,
I see the parallels, I totally do.
mhm.
Her younger sister lives close to us, but the middle child lives further away. So a lot of the times when I see the three of them together, I see like the conversations and the jokes and everything. I see a lot of parallels of Full House. So I totally see DJ. He was DJ.
Manny, what about you, bub?
I was actually gonna say Stephanie. She's definitely my favorite character.
She's amazing.
I just said this the other night. I was like, man, she's the best. Like, I feel bad that the Olsen twins felt like they had to get shoehorned in there just for like the cute lines in the beginning. But I'm like, man, Stephanie needs more screen time because she is hilarious. And I love her comebacks. Like, she is so quick. So I love it. She's fantastic.
Just the deadpan sometimes
Yeah.
when she says it.
The serious lines that she delivers, like the most, no, not serious lines, the silliest lines, and she's like so serious. It's hilarious.
As a kid, DJ was my favorite. And
I never knew that.
and it was because it's very much like the Clarissa Darling effect. I didn't have a crush on her, but I liked that she was a teenager because, again, it was around season 5 when I started really paying attention. So she was really already into high school, and this was a look for me into teenage years. And it was also really my first experience at watching a relationship of boyfriend-girlfriend on screen, because I didn't watch Boy Meets World when I was a kid. So seeing her with Steve, it was my first soap opera. Because watching her break up with Steve and then the other two guys came in and it was driving me nuts, and I was like, they're fine, but they're not Steve. Like, it was
Yeah.
driving me
It was not
nuts.
Steve. Yeah. Nope. Nope.
I mean, I was really
You're just
getting.
screaming at the TV.
I was. I
Yeah.
really got so into the
That's why
relationship that she
I
had.
legit lost it when he shows up for
Yes.
the last episode and this is
I was excited about that
I
too.
like screamed. I was so excited. Yes.
And that's something that I miss about TV, especially live, recorded in front of a live audience, because you got those.
Yeah.
Yes, they were cheesy and hokey, but you get so wrapped up into it too.
Yeah.
You feel like you're there with the audience responding that way. So yes, I remember being a kid, and when Steve showed up in the last episode, I got very excited.
Mhm.
And of course, everyone else in the house is just like, so like,
Alex, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because it's like, that's the thing that's lost today with everybody streaming everything. It's like you can watch all seasons. It's like, wasn't it fun to just wait a week and talk about it with your friends and family or whoever?
But the other thing about DJ that I really liked was I liked how mature she was, even for a teenager.
Yeah.
She was never the big party goer, the rambunctious um, juvenile delinquent. She was a very mature girl for her age, and when she messed up, she knew she messed up, and she would own up to it.
Mhm.
There was a couple times when she actually got into her father's face, understandably, because Danny was being too overbearing while they were dating,
Mhm.
and he had to learn to respect boundaries. And she was a cool teenager, and there was just something about the teenagers in 90s sitcoms at the time where they really played them up, not super realistically, but more of an idea of what adults would like their teenagers to behave.
Mhm.
And I actually learned a lot of how to behave as a teenager through this show. Even though that's not how teenagers behave, that's how I ended up behaving, though, because I knew this was kind of the idea of
Mhm.
mom and dad do understand. They were teenagers at one point too, and not to go through that whole adolescent years going, oh, you just don't understand, mom. No, they do. They've been there. Listen to them.
Yeah.
But that was as a kid. As an adult, Uncle Jesse. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. Uncle Jesse and Uncle Joey, both. Because if you could combine me as two characters, I feel like it would be Jesse and Joey.
J&J.
JJ. Because Joey, I loved
J square.
I love to goof around and be silly and make people laugh, but I like to be the cool guy too.
I know, you seem kind of serious, Alex.
You've not seen the series. Hopefully you never will. But I also get to be the cool uncle. I've been the cool uncle a couple of times with my nephew, and I actually I've gone to Sam's school a couple of times, and the kids were like, "Your dad looks like Captain America." And I'm like, "I look nothing like Captain America, but I'll take it."
Thank you.
Sorry.
But I love the two of them. I'm really upset that everybody in the show got a really close relationship with somebody, but Joey didn't.
Yeah, he never got married in the main show. Yeah.
I mean, he did have some girlfriends,
Yeah.
and there were a few like one-off episodes where he would get have somebody, but not a recurring character that stuck with him throughout a season or something like that. Everyone else did. Danny
Well, Danny
had
yeah.
had one that lasted like 2 seasons, and
Mhm.
then it didn't go through, which I'm still mad about that because Vicky was fantastic.
Mhm.
But I loved the relationship between him, Jesse and
Becky.
Becky, and I loved how it wasn't a perfect relationship. They both had to learn how to compromise, and I also liked how he used to be, Dr. Dare, and this big rock and roll guy,
Yeah.
but had to learn to set that aside and put the kids first and be a father. I mean, yes, he's an uncle, but he loves them as if they're his own kids. And same with Joey. He had to give up his career as a comedian. Mostly, he still did a lot at night, but he didn't get to. I mean, there was a whole episode about how he hadn't made it as a famous comedian like he was hoping to, because he was spending time with the kids and helping raise these three girls. And I love the relationship building between the two of them and the daughters, and having to be fathers really for the first time. But
It shows maturity on like how people grow and how people change. And they wrote it in such a really nice way, and it's sort of seamless too. Like you see it now when you stream it every episode, but during the week, oh wow, there's so many differences between the first season Joey and Jesse from the last season Joey and Jesse, you know. And they have to compromise where it's like, especially like when Jesse was about to drive on the motorcycle on the edge of yeah, it's like he just like, no, taking care of these girls are much more important. And that just like, it's amazing how much he matured, but for the better.
We've also got a few crossovers with within the TGIF universe. Before we get into some more of our favorite items, there was a crossover with Full House and Family Matters, which was in the season 4 episode Stephanie Gets Framed. There is also an episode where Full House crosses over with Step by Step. It was not a Full House episode. It was a Step by Step episode, and it was season 3, Great Expectations. And then there was an episode where Full House had a crossover with Hangin' Mr. Cooper. In the Hanging with Mr. Cooper episode, season 1, which was Hanging with Michelle. And I absolutely combined Hanging with Mr. Cooper and Hangover and called it Hangover with Mr. Cooper just now. Caught myself, but
No,
I know
Alex, that's the reboot. That's the reboot.
I'm absolutely calling it.
In later years.
And Mr. Cooper was an episode of all that, so I'd definitely say Hangover with Mr. Cooper for sure. And there were quite a few...
Hangover to try to understand that. Right?
And there were quite a few guest stars too. There was the Beach Boys, Little Richard, Jaleel White, Doris Roberts, Tosh Mowry, Phyllis Diller, Kirk Cameron, Scott Baio, Frankie Avalon, June Lockhart, Danielle Fishel, Ben Stein, Suzanne Summers, Vanna White, Mickey Rooney, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Tia and Tamara Mowry.
And Wayne Newton.
And Wayne Newton. That's right.
Yep. Also got Ed McMahon. He
Ed
was
McMahon.
in there too. Scott Baio was always my favorite because I loved him.
They also had Milton Berle.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, you don't remember the final episode whenever he had a donkey? Joey had a donkey, and he said, "Oh, I got this donkey here." And he said, "That's not a donkey. That's a burro. His name's Milton. Milton Berle."
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
That's where that's gonna go in. Yeah.
Going along, because we've got a ton that we can talk about, but going with Full House, because we'll get into some of the other stuff in a bit. What, sound off, everyone, are some of your favorite moments, some of your favorite episodes when you think Full House?
Definitely, you got to start somewhere, and that's with the pilot. I really like how you sort of meet everybody for the first time. The other one is the pox in the house, because I totally reflect a lot of that, because I remember having the chicken pox when I was really little, and it's really interesting to see like everybody getting the chicken pox all at the same time, even Jesse and Joey, because they felt like they had it before, but apparently they didn't. Let's see. There's also like a plot hole episode in the one we just watched where Joey meets up with his dad. And Jesse tells Joey that I've known you for 4 years and I've never met your dad. But didn't Jesse all know each other when they were kids?
They flash back.
Yeah, because they flashed back to the school in one episode, and Jesse, Joey, and Danny all meet each other as kids.
I don't know why they did that, because I don't think technically Jesse was at the school with Danny and Joey. Now, Danny and Joey have a long-standing relationship and friendship, but they And then there's been episodes where they talked about that they knew each other just from college, actually, but
Oh,
that Danny and Joey did. That's how they became best buds. But I mean, I could see their friendship being from when they were kids because they talked about in several episodes later on. They talked about dating the same girl in 7th, 6th grade. So I do think they go back, but I don't feel like Jesse did because I feel like when we were introduced to them, Jesse and Joey barely knew each other. They only knew each other because of the girls, because I think, Joey was there when like Michelle was born or something, but they were like more acquaintances. They hadn't really gotten close. So yeah, I definitely think that was more accurate compared to that one episode where Danny and Joey had that big fight and they were flashing back to the 60s or whatever it was. But
Megan, what are some of your favorite moments?
oh gosh. Again, just anytime Stephanie and Kimmy would be going at each other were some of my absolutely favorite moments. I just anytime there was banter between the two of them was great. I always loved it whenever some of my favorite moments just when Jesse would be singing, anything that he would be singing along with, or if he was writing, like in later episodes, he's trying to write music, write songs. Um, Probably some of my favorite episodes. I love when they go to Disney World.
Yes.
That was always like a highlight for me because I actually had went around the same time that they did. So I would have been awesome if I'd caught when they were there. Because I did go in 1993 and I can't remember if it was before that or around that
I
time.
would have been too.
Yeah, I was there in
Kind of
1993.
small. Wouldn't it
I
have
don't
been
know,
a
see ya.
small world if we were like
It's
those
a
pictures
small
where we look
world,
at each
Megan.
other's pictures and we're there at the same time? That'd
That-
be so weird.
that would have been so neat.
Na,
So
na,
cosmic.
na, na,
No.
na, na,
Literally a
na.
small world.
Definitely Jesse and Becky's wedding was always fun. I always love the 2-part episodes. I always enjoy those.
Yeah.
The cliffhangers and everything. But I love when he sings to her at the wedding. I cry every time watching it. But it's hard to pinpoint episodes because I love
We'll
several.
get rambling on to
Yeah.
several of them. I'm sure.
Those are just some of my highlighted ones, but
No, I was gonna mention the Disney one.
you would.
That was the first episode I can recall where I went into full on spastic seizure because I've got to find a VHS to record part 2 tomorrow.
Mhm.
I didn't know they were doing a Disney episode. I don't really remember seeing any of the commercials for any of the episodes because I never watched the network until it was time for Full House.
Mhm.
So I never saw any commercials leading up to it. And I remember just turning it on and they were going to Disney World. And I was freaking out because at this point, I had been dying to go to Disney World. I had never been before. My brother has been, but I haven't. And my brother went when he was a kid, and he was younger than I was at the time. Whenever he got the chance to go, and I became obsessed. I was looking at little trivia things. There was a book on travel. Like my parents had one of these, like it wasn't an encyclopedia, but it was like that, where a book was about art, a book was about construction, a book was about something else. One was about travel. The very last page had Cinderella's castle in it. And I would look through old photo albums and look at the trips to Disney World. And my mom and dad knew I wanted to go. And I knew they were planning to go because they started getting little flyers and making up family trips that we could go someday soon. And then this episode came on and I couldn't. I wish I knew this episode was going to be on because I would have recorded it. And then they lost Michelle at the end of the episode.
The first part, yeah.
And I was freaking out because not over Michelle, but they're gonna have a part 2 at Disney World. I've got to see this. And I was not going to be home tomorrow when this came on because I had like softball practice or something. So I knew I wasn't going to be home. So I had to rush out into the garage where my dad was working and say, "Do you have a tape? I need a tape for tomorrow." I have all night and all day tomorrow to set up the VCR to record. But no, I had to get this done now before I forgot. And my dad got a VCR programmed for me and put a VHS tape in, and as soon as it was done recording, or as soon as I came home, I had to watch that episode. And I had, I've mentioned before, I think that Christina Ricci was my crush when I was a kid from Addams Family and Addams Family Values, mostly Values. But my first crush that I can really think of was Snow White. And it was because of this episode. It wasn't the animated one. And yeah, it was, I was a kid. Shut up. But
I didn't say anything.
not you, her.
Not you. Not
But-
you.
But I loved Snow White. I loved the movie. But it was weird to see an animated character as a live person and completely embody the character. And I fell in love with that as a kid. And I watched that episode over and over, and not because of Snow White, but because of everything else that was involved with it. It was the coolest thing to see Disney World and to see inside the aquarium. Even though I'm terrified of aquariums, it was cool to see that. See Joey as an animated cartoon come to life. To see the Disney Aladdin parade or
The actual actor who voiced Aladdin dressed
Yes.
up as Aladdin.
my
Oh,
favorite
that's
thing.
funny.
Yeah,
You haven't seen
he
this?
was.
No, I haven't seen this one.
Yeah.
My favorite thing was seeing the Indiana Jones stunt spectacular.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yes.
I loved that thing. And then as soon as I got to Disney World, that was what I wanted to go see, and it did not disappoint. It was so cool to see that. But I loved that Disney episode, and I was excited at the end of it because that was also when Danny proposed to Vicky with the really really cool fireworks, and I end that episode so happy every time. One, because it's Disney and I love it. Two, because it ends on such a sweet note, and which really felt like something that Danny deserved.
And
'Cause-
Jesse sang "A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes."
Yes, oh my gosh, that gets me every time, because that song gets me. But I loved that episode, and I've got some other favorite moments, but I've already hogged the mic enough for now. Heather, what are some of your favorite moments?
Much like you two, some of my favorite episodes were that episode, the Disney episode, her seeing Steve everywhere, basically,
Mhm.
and that him as Aladdin, just like seeing Aladdin as Aladdin was really funny to me because I remember freaking out and like telling my sisters like, but that is Aladdin, and they're like, yeah, they're at Disney. I was like, no, he is Aladdin.
Yeah. No, he really is.
The wedding episode, like, not gonna lie, I had like on my iPod Jesse and the
Forever.
Rippers singing
Forever.
Forever. I was playing it the other day for you.
Were you really? Oh, I'm the fan. Yes. No, I remember. I remember this. We were singing this together. I remember this.
So cutesy, and I was like, if every word I said, you don't remember. A lot of the travel episodes for them,
Yeah.
like Hawaii.
I do have to give a special shout out to the Vegas episode because we all love the hotel manager.
The fabulous son of a hotel and casino.
Yeah, a lot of like the travel stuff. It just made me feel like living vicariously through them.
Right. It's like, I want to go there.
Yeah, those are the ones that stick out the most to me. As I'm watching them over again, I've been like, oh, now I remember this episode. Like I was quoting it the other day, but like that hadn't been in my recollection like 5 hours before that. But
No
it was just
kidding.
like this.
It unlocks, man. It just
It
unlocks.
does.
So
Yeah.
a favorite moment was when Jesse and the whole family was making a trip because Jesse was going to be playing at a concert, and it ended up being a polka concert.
At the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the part that I loved the most was when they were in the hotel and they had to use quarters to activate everything.
Yeah.
And they put a quarter to activate the TV and the bed started to shake.
That was when they're on the road. Yeah.
And then they put the quarter in the bed and you hear the toilet flush.
Good to know,
And-
Becky says.
And Joey just goes, does anybody have change for a 20?
Yeah. Oh.
I also, a different episode, but I loved when Joey was listening to those self-help tapes
Oh my god.
And Jesse pulls the headphone away and goes, "I am a tranquil idiot. I am a tranquil." Hey,
That was the episode that Steve and DJ were caught alone in his apartment together, and
Yep.
they were not allowed to see each other.
yep.
Or Danny banned them from seeing each other. Yeah.
But that was also the one where Stephanie or Michelle, I think it was Michelle, accidentally broke the window uh right behind the dinner table with that chute for the cement truck and poured cement all inside. And
No, that was DJ and Steve were in the
that it was
truck.
in the okay. That's why they were banned from seeing each other.
And Joey was sitting at the kitchen table.
Yeah, and
didn't
it had to
know
go
that-
everywhere. It was going all the way around
It
them.
was going everywhere.
And
That window took a lot of damage.
oh yeah,
Yes, it did.
Stephanie drove the car, Joey's car, through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah.
hurts. Like watching that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, she's the best line. I'm in the kitchen and I'm still in the car.
You saw nothing.
Yeah.
She kept on repeating it.
How
Like,
did it get here? Through the window. She said,
I told you.
I told you.
Some of Michelle's lines,
Yeah, she had
That-
some good ones.
especially when she was younger, they weren't all cutesy lines, but they told her to say these lines. Of course, you know they did.
Yeah, oh
Eh,
yeah.
But they were really funny lines coming from a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
That was one. There was one, I forgot what it was. Hopefully you remember it, but there was one last night that
Yeah.
we both laughed at.
She's got Jesse's keys. They
Oh,
were looking for his
yes.
keys, and then she never had it. And then she's in there eating that popsicle, and he's like, "Where are my keys?" And she goes, she pulls them out.
Okay.
She was like, she goes, "Give me a break, all right?"
Yeah,
Or
give
something
me
like
a
that.
break. That's it. That's it.
It's like
That's like her in the Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear episode when they thought that they gave away Mr. Bear, and then all of a sudden she just pulls him out of the piano bench.
Yeah.
And that's the one episode, the first time we actually got to see what their mom looked like. That was the episode they watched the home videos of seeing their mom. The only time we
Mhm.
saw,
Mhm.
the mom shown on TV, and it was that's a very heartbreaking episode.
So going along that, what are some serious moments that you can think of in the show that handled a serious topic? Because that's one of them.
Mhm.
There's a couple times when they mention mom.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple offhand, but I'll
Mhm.
open it up to anybody else. Can anyone else think of a serious moment?
The abuse, the kid in Stephanie's class whose
That's my
dad
first
was
one.
abusing him.
Mhm.
That was hard. And I thought, Jesse, and I liked that it was Jesse and Stephanie. It was a moment for them to share,
Mhm.
the two of them. Because a lot at this point in the show, Jesse and Michelle were pretty close. Like
Yeah.
they had a really serious bond. So it was nice to see it be Stephanie and not Michelle this time. But I want to, yeah. And that kid was actually in the Mighty Ducks. So
Mhm.
yeah, I remember him.
And I also love how they addressed, even though Stephanie promised not to say anything, and she
Mhm.
still did,
Yeah.
but promised, made Jesse promise,
Yeah.
but Jesse was like, no, this is not,
Yeah.
you've got to say something. And even assured her at the end that what she did was the right thing. And she said, "Then why do I feel so lousy?" Because it's a lousy situation.
Yeah.
I love how they handled that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Any other serious moments while we're on a downer?
Yes, when DJ was accused of drinking when those kids spilled beer
We're
on him.
almost to that episode. Yeah.
That was like a really rough moment because I've been in a situation like that where it's like, you're telling the truth, but no one's
No one
believing.
believes you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just a really hard feeling, and I know a lot of people probably deal with this too. So it's just after, the boy that she wanted to date said it was him and it was his fault, sort of made like Danny and Jesse understand and be like, "I'm sorry we accused you of drinking."
And they brought that back with Kimmy.
I was just gonna say
later
that.
on when Kimmy got drunk at the park.
Oh yeah.
And it was I think it's the last season.
is.
And Kimmy and DJ went to a college party, and Kimmy got drunk. And DJ had to like force the keys out of her hand because they drove Kimmy's car so that DJ would drive home. and she got mad at DJ for taking her away from the party, and DJ took care of her, let her sleep over at her house, tried to help her feel better, and and DJ admits that's how we knew her mom died. I couldn't remember if they had mentioned it before that. I think they had, but
I think
that's
they
how
did in the
she
first.
died. She was hit by a drunk driver.
I think they addressed it in the first episode, if not the first couple of episodes. And then they just never mentioned it since.
Yeah.
And by that point, I had wondered what happened.
Yeah.
And then once, there was nobody in my family that has really drunk, and it was kind of an alien thing for me. But I heard a lot of people talking about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's school. You had dare programs,
Yeah.
so you heard about don't drink and drive, don't get in a car with somebody who's been drinking, all these precautionary things. But I've never had it told to me in a way that related. I mean, I didn't relate to these people, but they were family to me.
Mhm.
So even though it wasn't happening in my home, this is my TV home, and this really opened my eyes to, okay, this is how serious this could be.
Mhm.
And I really liked how they handled that, because that opened me up. That opened me up more than dare.
Mhm.
Don't care, fight me. But wasn't there an episode also with it was with Stephanie and Gia?
Smoking.
The
Yeah,
smoking. Yeah.
Yep, smoking, and also to have a boy girl party with no adults that Gia had at her house, at her apartment, that Stephanie didn't know about, and that was the episode that Danny had laryngitis and couldn't speak. He was really rough. Yeah. Yes, there was that one, and the smoking one. Yeah.
well,
When she-
wasn't there another episode where she was out with Gia and they were gone far too
Reckless
long?
drive.
That's
There's
the one.
reckless driving
That's the
one.
one.
Yes, DJ was trying to stop her from getting into a car with two guys who were not driving very safe, and then thankfully she stopped her from going, and then of course they got in a car accident.
Mhm.
Thankfully, they were okay, I think, but they were very, very badly injured.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then of course the big, Papuli death.
Papuli.
Papuli.
That one hit
Papuli's
me.
death was hard.
That one hit me when I was a kid. That was shortly after my uncle had passed. But I don't think it fully registered that he's not going to be around anymore.
Mhm.
Obviously, I saw how it affected my family, but I wasn't affected that emotionally. I was just like, well, this sucks.
Mm.
And that was about it. But then I cried at Papuli's death, and it wasn't at Papuli. It was when Uncle Jesse started to break
Yeah.
that broke me, because I felt bad for Michelle, but when Uncle Jesse started to break, I remember breaking when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, when John did, and then they're in the boat. They're in the back of the boat
Yep.
talking.
My grandfather passed away 2 years after that, but I remember rewatching that in the future and just being a mess because like you haven't seen the Papuli death, like that's Jesse's grandfather. He comes to stay and he goes to sleep one night and doesn't wake up in the morning.
Yeah, he dies in his sleep, which is the best way to go. But yeah.
And that's similar to something that happened with my grandfather, but he was in the hospital. And that is one episode like I cannot rewatch to this day because it just triggers too much for me.
Yeah, it's hard.
That was a heartbreaking episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to come back to that in just a minute for a more positive thing. But the only other serious episode that I can think of was the series finale when Michelle had amnesia.
Yeah, she horseback riding. She was horseback riding and fell off her horse and hit her head, and she was unconscious for a while. And then when she woke up, she didn't have any memory.
Mhm.
Didn't know who everybody was. That was one, and I'm glad that they were able to showcase both Mary Kate and Ashley in that episode, because you get to see her subconscious talking to her and telling her like, I know all this place, I know this, and so and I felt like it was a good ending to the show. I would have maybe like to have had something a little more send-offish, like if Joey was gonna be getting married and leaving the house or something like that. I would have maybe liked to have seen that, but
also at the same time, I do think it's a fitting ending for the show because it's a reminder of family.
Family. Yeah.
This is what the whole show has culminated up to, this family.
Yeah.
And then for it to have been taken away and then all those memories brought back to this is family.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a smart thing.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people who would disagree, but you know what? I don't care.
I
I
still
like
liked it. I still liked it.
I was just gonna say I thought of another one, but
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go for it.
The volunteer, the episode where DJ is
Yes.
volunteering
Eddie.
Eddie
Eddie.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an elderly man. He like ends up forgetting who like he has these little like forgetful spells, and it ends up he has early onset Alzheimer's. And so that's like a really tough thing for DJ to face because
He had some of the best lines in that episode. I saw a pregnant man. Yes, he had to wear a fake pregnancy belly so that he could experience what Rebecca was going through, being pregnant with the twins.
That was the volunteer episode, right?
Yeah, that's what she.
So that guy, we're going to talk about this a bit later, but that guy was Keenan and Kel's uncle in the Thanksgiving episode.
Uncle Ramus.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I want some turkey.
I want that turkey.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
He will always be that guy to me. I love that guy.
That was
Has nothing to do with Full House, but he loved his turkey.
Well, we're going to talk about the Nickelodeon and Full House connection in a little while. But going back to Papuli, the very next episode, we quote a lot in this house because right after that was he went to Greece for his funeral, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he came
Comes
back
with his cousin Stavros. It was also played by John Stamos.
Really?
Oh yeah,
He got to see a double role, yes, and he is. Oh my gosh, yes.
I got a whole lot of episodes to watch.
Yeah, because
the later seasons are fun.
Oh yeah, because like he had this really ridiculous accent, and like she said something about, "Can I be Frank?" And he says, "Can I still be Stavros? Can I still be Stavros?"
So in this episode, Stavros really likes Rebecca, and he keeps trying to hit on her, and she's not having it because she thinks he's creepy.
He's like, "What is that smell?" And she's like,
"She goes, well, I just came from the gym and I rubbed some Ben Gay."
Oh, this Ben lucky guy. And then the other one that we quote because we're at church and we use microphones all the time. A microphone. I mean, we're constantly quoting that episode because of Stavros.
I love that. That's great.
So much fun. It is. John was great in that. It was so much fun to see him play such a silly character,
such a sleaze
and over the top character. Yeah, hands down.
And I have a T-shirt that reminds me of that episode. I have a T-shirt that says, "I gave up video games. Worst 15 minutes of my life." And in this episode, they tell him about, why don't you go get a job or something? Like genuinely, like it wasn't like a dig. It was he has nothing at home. And why don't you get a job? Because I did get a job. I work very hard. Worst day of my life. But another favorite moment was the first time Joey and Jesse were evaluating the Smash Club for purchase.
Oh my gosh.
And Joey goes under the counter.
Funny. Yeah.
And stands up and his head goes through the bar and his head's stuck.
Yep.
And then he goes to give a handshake.
And he can't.
And he can't because he's stuck from the neck down. So he just sticks his tongue out and Jesse just smacks his tongue like a high five to his tongue.
This takes me back to the pilot episode, and I was like, that's actually a really good idea. And you're like, no, that's not going to work. It was the scene when they're first changing Michelle for the first time.
Oh.
Like, well, if you could put another diaper on top of that other diaper.
Oh, yeah.
It can work. I'm like, that's a neat idea.
I like it. I like what you're thinking. All right. Dueling Samleys. I love the ridiculous names they would do. And Joey did a lot of voices, but I think Jesse did the better Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, John Stamos is a huge fan. Like, I think he brought most of his character in his real life character into that character. So it's like, love the Frank Sinatra, everybody like that. And just, huge musician. So yeah, it's really neat that his real life reflects Jesse as well. So I think it's kind of cool. Not a lot of TV shows do that, I don't think.
Going into this episode, as in the one we're recording, not Full House, but this episode of Splat Attack, Manny said something before the episode, and what character are you most like?
Oh, cleaning.
Oh, Danny.
Yeah.
There.
He is such a Danny.
Well,
He goes, yeah.
not all the way. Like I
No,
don't
no, no.
I don't boil my change. I don't do that. So it's like,
He's not dust dusting
but I
the
do-
Or
vacuum.
Yeah.
the vacuum cleaner.
but no, I just if there's a mess, I need to clean it
Immediately.
like immediately.
When we're giving the dog her pills, we've been trying to put them in things.
And like food and everything.
so
It's
like she was eating
I washed
a
my
hot
hands
dog.
literally 5 times doing that.
He's just eating little bites of hot dog and like he's like scrubbing the floor. It's like taking water with soap and putting it on the floor and then scrubbing it. I was like, you could
Because
just
you're
use
like, you
a
just use a
cloth.
rag, and you're like, no, you can't. You have to use water and soap, and then you dry it, because otherwise you're gonna put that on the floor. It's like,
It's like you're just rubbing it into the floor. And I was like, all right.
guys, this is a cry for help, okay? That's really what this is all about.
Yeah, he sent me a message, all you Slimesters, just the other day, talking about because we were checking in on the two of them, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're doing fine. Heather's asleep, so I'm cleaning up the house, and it's okay. I love cleaning."
Yes, I did say that. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, we just watched the episode where Danny was going
Dating.
to this girl's house,
Yeah.
her apartment, and the apartment was a mess. He can't even make out with her because he's constantly having to fold laundry.
He's like, what would you like in your coffee? I like it clean. I mean, in a clean cup. I mean, black is fine. You know, with cream. I want cream. And then he's like, instead of sweet and low, he ends up saying like sweet and tidy or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yes.
Would that bother me, like, in real life? I'm not gonna say it, but you know, you're getting a date out of this, so I would just go with like that. Be like, hey, and then once you go to sleep, I'll be like, hey, somebody just cleaned up your apartment. How about that, huh?
I was like, Heather was mentioning about like all the locations I got to go to. We
Yeah.
forgot that Jesse got to go to Japan, so for
Mm.
his tour.
Ah.
And I love the honey roasted. I love his whatever his name was, because I can't remember his name, but he was the best. He wanted peanuts, and he's like, whatever you need.
We're there for you, babe. Here she was, just walking down the street, saying,
Oh,
"Oh,
God.
Oh, that concert. Yeah, because his band never showed up.
Dan didn't show.
Like,
They
we're your band.
They were double booked."
Yes. Oh my gosh. Ugh.
And I also enjoyed the episode where Jesse was trying to teach Becky how to sing.
Mm-hmm. Chase the clouds away.
And then gave her some, trying to.
Chase.
And then she.
That was my bad impression singing. I really can sing better.
Oh, but then the part right when he was like, "Oh, I could take it. I could take an insult," and then she just lays into him and walks away.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad for your first lesson, honey.
She also sings in the telethon episode
I know, yeah.
Oh, she did.
as the woman in the box.
Or the episode when they're on that.
Kiss today, goodbye.
It was like their version of the Newlywed Game,
Oh gosh.
where it was Steve and DJ and
Uh,
Jesse and
Rebecca
Rebecca,
and
and then
Vicky
Danny
and
and Eileen or
was her
Estelle,
name. Yeah. The lady
and the two of them won.
I don't remember that very much, but like you said that, and it started to light a flame and then it just went out again.
Yeah, I was like, that's the one where him and Vicky end up breaking up. That was the episode that Danny and Vicky broke up. So
Oh.
yeah, but yeah, I forgot what was it called, the name of the show. But yeah, Joey had to wear like a really weird headpiece and fake teeth. And the guy's like, "Hey, don't forget the teeth, buddy. It stays
Oh,
too."
speaking of that, Woody Woodchuck. I just remembered him. I hope
Oh,
your
you're talking about the Woodchuck,
world.
Mr. Woodchuck.
Yeah, I hope your world.
Wood
I loved that thing.
is the door made of
Wood.
I don't remember. Like, I do remember that. Now that I think about it, I was like, that. I
That's
thought
his
that
little. That's
happened.
his little puppet
I
dude.
thought that started so much earlier than it did.
But I've got to throw my James Bond references in there because there's
B
B
L
L
B.
B Bond, Lou Bond. For those that don't know the episode, there he was the former owner. He used to live in the house.
He used to years ago,
And he
trying to
had his
remember.
initials carved into some of the wood, and then he comes over to visit, and he looks up as, yes, that's my initials, B L B. And then there was also an episode called From Joey with Love, which is From Russia with Love reference. But yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
I want to mention something too that I just remembered. We just saw an episode when they thought that the girls were never gonna leave the house. So they did a dream sequence where they were all old.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so funny.
You'll see earlier in this episode, it was when we were talking about the serious moments, and she's saying something and talking about the serious moment, and I start laughing. I was laughing at that episode because it was when they had that fisheye lens, and Danny would get like really close to you're their favorite uncle.
Yeah, that part was weird. That was scary.
Season 1, yeah. Yeah, uncle. Like, we were cackling. What?
I think it's the funniest thing Danny has ever done.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That episode, the lady who plays the older Michelle ended up marrying Dave Coulier, I believe. I believe that she became his wife.
Oh,
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
You want to know?
Oh, jeez.
No, I forgot.
That was the first one.
That was her.
Yeah, it was. I know. We've got one more little topic, and then we'll go into our commercial break. But who are some of your favorite recurring characters, and not the main cast, but supporting characters?
Walter.
Oh yeah, it does come back.
Mrs. Carruthers.
Oh gosh, I loved her, Mrs. Carruthers, because she was so obsessed with.
I did not like Mrs. Carruthers.
I love her because she was in Teen Witch, which was one of my all-time favorite movies from the 80s. But yes, I loved her.
Okay, you know who annoyed me the most of all I don't know his name, but he was Wish.com Macaulay Culkin.
His name was Blake Ewing.
Yeah, who is the character? Waldo.
No, that was from Little Rascals.
That
He was Waldo in Little Rascals, but he's Derek. Derek is his name on.
How do I forget that?
I know, it's your brother's name. Yeah. Derek, yeah.
I don't know what it was.
I loved his duet with Denise, her friend Denise.
I like
and
Denise.
They sang Don't Go Breaking My Heart. They sang that
And
together.
Joey playing the piano.
Yeah, as looking like Elton John.
I liked Denise. I think
she had a dirty mind. Like, she was talking about I'm gonna cut your toenails off and feed them to you, or you're like, and I'm like, that's me. That's my mind. She was like, you're gross. They're like, you're gross, Denise. She goes, I know.
she was the one that I liked.
She was funny.
Like, I didn't see any of the others as a main crush, but I had kind of an infatuation with Denise.
Denise was actually the little black girl. That's Denise.
Yeah, it was the one who, whenever they did the girl,
redhead.
whenever they had the girls that were going to dance with the boys, and
Lisa is her name. Lisa. Derek and Lisa. Yeah.
Because they were going to walk over, and she said, the first boy that says no gets a wedgie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved how twisted she was. I had such an infatuation with her.
Twisted mind, yes.
Can you imagine me having a thing for somebody with a twisted mind?
Oh, I can never think that, Alex.
I really, and it's written on here on our notes, but I really did love Rusty. He was so much fun. The kids, his mom was dating Danny in season 4, I believe they started dating. And Rusty was the prankster. He loved to the episode where he pranks everybody with that fake love note. That episode is a good standard episode. That was so much fun. Yeah, that was season 4 because Jesse and Rebecca were engaged at this point. So
another character I liked was Dwayne. Whatever.
He made a few words.
That's all he ever said. Whatever. And I think one episode near the end of his run, they had said something like, "Don't you ever want to do something else or say something else?" Like they asked him a really prominent question. He was just like, "I guess." It's all the boy ever said. Yeah. Whatever, and I guess.
Yep.
I like that. That's cool.
Of course, Kimmy is going to have to pick, at least this variation of Kimmy's got to pick somebody who has a very, very small vocabulary.
Yep, absolutely.
Unlike what she gets later, which we'll get to.
Yep.
But anything to add as far as recurring supporting characters before we move on? All right. Well, we've rambled quite a bit. I'm sure we're more than halfway through our episode, but we are going to take our commercial break here. So stick around for a few minutes. There's quite a bit that's going on in Splat Attack. So let's see what's going on there. Let's see what's going on with these lovely people. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. So don't go away. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Splat Attack. If you are enjoying our Full House retrospective, please hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, make sure to hit that notification bell. If you are listening on a podcast app, please leave us a review. These very simple things make you family. Aww. One of the things I love about Full House is the main theme of family. And we pretty much have our own surrogate family over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/splatattack, where we get together twice a month for slime streams. We have bonus content that comes out every Friday, behind the scenes, bloopers, early access to our episodes, among many other things. And we do pretty much become like family. So again, go over to patreon.com/splatattack.
Heather and I, we have like a lot of weird conversations before we go to sleep. So this is sort of a podcast based on weird and funky conversations you have before you go to sleep. So we have about 6 episodes out right now, and it's available on Spotify.
Yes, and it's called Bedtime Banter. It's the anxiety-fueled ramblings of my brain that can't go to sleep until I get these things out, and hence I'm going to make sure he's awake and thinking about them too.
And that's our show.
Yes, there was a lot of purely 90s choices on Full House, but if you also enjoy some other 90s just throwbacks like Fuller House, head over to our Bonfire page. Go to bonfire.com/store/splatattack store, where we do have some 90s themed shirts there. We've got what I've been wearing throughout this episode, our Space Cases t-shirt, along with some Simmer Down from Stick Stickly, Physical Challenge from Double Dare, along with some Splat Attack originals and some coffee mugs, all kinds of fun stuff. So head over to bonfire.com/store/splatattack store with hyphens in between. The Tanneritos had a lot of really cool trips, and we are going to be going to LA in October. October 19th and 20th, we are going to go to SplatCon. Hope that you will all be there too. It is going to be at the Hilton LAX, and when you go get your tickets, which you absolutely should do, make sure you use code ATTACK10 to get 10% off of your tickets. If you're going to get a hotel bundle, use ATTACK25 to get $25 off. We'll be in LA. Hope you will too. Tune in next time, Slimesters, when we head on over to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger, to grab a bite with Sam, yay, and hop into the strawberry jacuzzi and discuss both Good Burgers 1 and 2. You'll find the retro-rific action only here on Splat Attack. All right. So I have to tell all of you who are listening to this episode, you've got to go check out our Patreon because we've got some fun stories. We were just sharing some during the commercial break, and there's oh my gosh, they're fun. And you're actually going to see a lot of the fun banter between the Splat Attack crew and at the very end of this season. So only for our patrons, you're not going to want to miss it.
Where can I find this, Alex? On Patreon?
Patreon. You guys have all heard this.
Patreon.
You guys have all heard this during the commercial break, but seriously, check it out. It's fun. We have a lot of fun.
The Splat Attack Patreon? Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna go right now.
But anyway, we're gonna wrap up with Full House in terms of just our favorite moments and things, because just going with a few basic facts, the show was finally canceled by ABC after 8 seasons due to the increasing production costs because they got huge.
Yeah.
Just the casting alone was huge.
Mhm.
And the last episode, which we had mentioned before, the last two was Michelle Rides Again, parts 1 and 2, where Michelle is thrown off a horse and suffers a concussion and gets amnesia from it. Do any of you remember seeing that?
Vaguely. Don't remember, like, as we talk about it, I feel like I remember her being on a horse, but
I just remember 2 Michelles. I remember that. But it was mostly on commercials or if someone was talking about the show in a TV review. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting that they had both sisters on the episode.
when
So-
you said the other day, they're like, you said something about like, oh, when Michelle gets amnesia, and I thought I didn't remember at the time, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I thought he was just making something up. I'm like, oh,
No, it was an actual episode.
Yeah. I don't remember like if I watched it when it originally aired. But I'm very, very familiar with the episode. I remember it in detail very well. And that was one of the things I remembered was I thought very fitting for it being the finale that they actually got to feature both of the girls getting to play Michelle for the season finale. And I thought I love that they did that. Because they always, they would both do an episode, but they'd split up, parts and things like that. And I remember one of the things I used to love was being able to tell them apart. And I could always tell them apart by the sound of their voice. I felt like Mary Kate had a little bit of a deeper voice than Ashley. Ashley had a little more preppier sounding voice. And Mary Kate is left-handed and Ashley is right-handed. So whenever we'd see episodes of them writing, I would know which one was doing what when we'd see who was writing. Yeah. See, I told you I was obsessed fan of Mary Kate and Ashley. Yes.
If you're listening, go to YouTube and watch the video because the realization on Manny's face when he found that out just now is wonderful.
Yeah. Yes.
That answers my question because did they play each other every other episode or was it different scenes?
I believe they did different scenes because especially as they got older, you could really tell the distinction between them. And Mary Kate is actually just like an half inch shorter than Ashley because Ashley is the older twin. So again, I told you I know a lot more than I should about these people.
like when they were younger, you could tell in their faces too.
Yes, yeah, a little bit, yeah. But when they were younger, I did have a harder time telling them apart. But when they started getting older and when they got like elementary age, you could hear in their voices which one was Ashley and which one was Mary Kate. Because I always thought Mary Kate was more of like the tomboyish one. She was more tomboyish in the way she sounded, I thought. And Ashley was very much a girly girl. So, but yeah. But yeah, that was one of the things I'll always remember is getting to see both of them on screen. And then, of course, the return of Steve in the finale. Again, I was with the audience and screaming and fangirling having Steve back because their breakup in the show was probably the hardest for me to get over because I shipped them so hard.
I do remember seeing this when it came out. And I remember how somber I felt watching it because it came out on TGIF, if I remember right. and they did it in 2 weeks. So it wasn't like because they used to play it after school. It wasn't the new episodes, but they did play it after school, and that's where I watched it the most. But I heard somewhere that this was going to be the last 2 episodes. It was the series finale. It wasn't just a season finale. And I knew this was going to be it. There was going to be no more new episodes of Full House after this, and this was a constant for me. The show had been on most of my life up to this point, and I loved this show. I loved watching these kids grow up. I related to Michelle because she was the youngest, and then to know that this is it, no more. This was a really tough thing for me. Yes, it was just a TV show, but if you really think about how kids were back in the 90s, I mean, the TV was our babysitter.
Yeah.
And these families were our families. And I didn't want it to be over. But the inevitability of it was just kind of, it sucked. But it wasn't something that I could miss because I wanted to see what was going to happen. And I didn't know that Michelle was going to lose her memory. I don't remember if I saw a commercial that mentioned something to that effect. I just remember hearing that it was going to be the end of the show, and I didn't want to miss it. So when she lost her memory, I was like, "Oh man, this sucks." And not like the episode sucks or anything. Just as a kid, I was like, "You can't end the show like this."
Yeah.
And then when the I knew there once they did a part 2, I was like, okay, I know they're gonna bring her memory back. I know they're gonna do all the things and pull the As a kid, I knew they were gonna do that because I was like, they can't end this happy show on this sad note. They're not gonna go full Roseanne. There's got to be something here, and then when it ended the way it did, I was really excited and happy with the way it ended. And then to know that it's just over, it really hit me for the first time. I don't think I've had that much of a finality to it
It
until
was kind of like the first huge finale of a show that really kind of
Mhm.
hit hard. Like nowadays as an adult, when you do have those finales, they hit harder. But
I haven't had that hit me like that until Supernatural ended.
yeah, because I mean, Friends was still going at this
Mhm.
point, so their finale and later was heartbreaking and hard to watch. But yeah, this for me, this felt like the first real, as a '90s kid, this was the first finale that really like series finale that just was gut wrenching. It was like,
And
oh, because I loved it. I loved
most
it.
kids programming like Nickelodeon and Fox Kids, they never had an end
A
to
lot
the
of
show.
they just got canceled. Yeah,
They would get canceled and get
so
replaced,
many.
or they would just rerun episodes. Like Salute Your Shorts, it was only 2 seasons, but they kept playing the episodes over and over, so it always felt like it never went away.
Yeah.
Until they just slowly, waned it out and put
Yeah.
something else in, and you never really noticed until you're like, "Hey, where did the show go?" But this was really the first end, and that hurt.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a hurt my feelings type thing. Just growing
like a
up and
bummer.
growing up and moving on.
Yeah.
It's because it was such a constant. Because at a young age, you only know so much. I mean, you've only been around so long. So like if this is your like core memory age, this is the first show you religiously, I would say, watched. At that point in your life, it's been with you longer than it's been without you. That you've been without it. So I think that's that constant. That's why I think it hits harder because you do feel like you're part of the family. They do a really good job of bringing you in and making you feel like this is
Like
your family.
part of like sort of part of your family. And that shows a difference between a show that really they don't put a lot of work into versus a show that they do put a lot of work into. Because if you're subconsciously not gonna like a show if they're not putting any effort into it, but if they are, you're fully invested, and your reaction is probably the best payment that those show writers and producers can get. It's like, we made a show that you guys loved so much, and that's definitely the signs of a truly, truly great show.
Yeah.
And to be loved so much that they made a reboot series for it
Mhm.
many years later.
Yes.
Because we'll touch briefly on this. There was a reboot series over on Netflix called Fuller House.
Mhm.
This time it was DJ. She owns the house now, and the
Well,
basic.
actually, her dad still owned it. He was
Well,
letting
she was
her live
living
there.
in it,
Yeah.
but the big the main plot of this one was DJ now struggles to raise her 3 sons after she had been widowed,
Yeah.
and Stephanie and Kimmy move in to help her.
Yeah.
John Stamos, Uncle Jesse, he served as the producer for for the show, and there were pretty much the entire cast came back, even supporting characters. Only Mary Kate and Ashley were not the two that didn't come back for the show. There were 5 seasons on Netflix. The first one was in February 26, 2016, and the finale was June 2nd of 2020. And we were talking about this just briefly last night,
Mhm.
because Full House gets a lot of flack for being cheesy and hokey and all that kind of stuff. But rewatching it again, because we've rewatched the show numerous times,
Mhm.
but the reboot felt even more cheesy and ridiculous than the original series did. But and that's not to say that we don't like it. It's just
Yeah.
it's just a mere observation where everyone's like, "Oh man, Full House is cheesy. Have you seen Fuller House? That's
Mhm.
nothing." The Fuller House went, hold my apple cider."
Yeah. I sometimes used to think, did Candace Cameron forget how to act? Because there were so many times, so much stuff was a little forced.
Most of that show was forced.
The rest of them I thought were, Kimmy and Stephanie, Jody and Andrea were great. They were their characters again. Like it's like they never left, in my opinion. But yeah.
They really tried to force the catchphrases. Like, right out the bat, my Lanta and how rude. Like they were like
Kind of like how I feel about this is my boomer millennial logic right here. This is why I can't relate to like comedies and TV shows anymore of today because I feel like they're forcing too much because I feel like it's a whole attention span getting thing that I'm not laughing at this, but I could go back to something from like the 70s or 80s or early 90s. And I'm like, I like this because they're working up to something
like
and not just joke,
stuff.
joke, joke, joke.
Completely different writing styles compared. Yeah. You can tell huge difference from that. Yeah, I agree.
What what did you two think of the series as a whole, outside of just the catchphrases? Did you enjoy it? Did you not?
I didn't watch tons of it. I'm gonna be honest. I was really excited at first. Like my Netflix profile picture is still like because I was so excited that they
Still
had
J-
like
DJ.
yeah, I have DJ, I think it was whenever, when you could share Netflix accounts at the time. I was like, mine was DJ, and I had originally set up my sister's as like Michelle and Stephanie, but they changed it. But yeah, it's I couldn't watch the whole thing. And I don't know if it was just the mindset I was in at the time. I was like, I don't want to like I wasn't feeling like that hokey cheesiness. But I think now re-watching stuff, like I think I could get into it. I don't know, the whole wolf pack thing annoyed me, the ooh thing. Yeah, the fuel. Yeah.
But that's kind of what opened it up for me because I'm like, see, this is why I don't want to watch Full House because it's a lot like this. And you're like, no, it isn't.
It's nothing
This
like
is
this.
the show. And so she introduced me to Full House
Mm.
at the age of 31. So it's like, that's when I first watched it. It was great. I really liked it.
It just
What are your thoughts on Fuller House, my dear?
Well, as cheesy as it was, I still really enjoyed it. It was just so great to have almost I mean, obviously we didn't get Mary Kate and Ashley, but we had the extent of the rest of the cast, getting in there. Some came back, for single episodes. We got, there was some serious stuff talked about,
Oh yeah.
like, DJ's husband was a fireman and he died in a fire, and that's how he passed. And it just
And Stephanie couldn't have children.
Stephanie had fertility issues and she couldn't get pregnant, and to see her finally, spoiler alert, if you've not seen the show, get pregnant toward the end of the show was great. And I have to give a shout out to probably the best character of the entire show, which was Kimmy's ex-husband, soon to be husband again, Fernando. He was the best, the funniest.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I could just watch a whole series with him because
Hello, Kimberlina.
he stole the show. I loved him, and he's an incredible dancer. But he was so funny. And I also gotta say that DJ's middle child was the funniest kid, throwing it back to Stephanie being the funny one of the three girls the most to me. The middle one was the funniest, and he was the nerdy kid with the bow ties, and I loved him. I thought he was precious. But they had some incredible guest stars. We got Val and Max from Dancing with the Stars. Love my Dancing with the Stars references.
Macy Gray.
Macy Gray, yes, she was on there.
She was drunk as a skunk.
On the block, no kids. Like, my teeny bopper heart was so excited when they guest starred.
Geriatric kids on the block.
No, they look good. They look good. I don't care what you say. They still look good.
It's like Spice Girls. No, now they're Old Spice.
We got an introduction of I believe his name was Matt, the guy that DJ was starting to date.
Oh yeah.
And then we got Steve back, and there was a little bit of a love triangle between the three.
He's now a podiatrist, and DJ is
a podiatrist, and she's a vet, yes, a veterinarian, which is very fitting because we know DJ loved horses in the show when she was younger, so I thought that was very fitting. And Stephanie was a DJ. It goes with her musical background.
Kim was a party planner.
Kimmy was a party planner. But yeah, I loved the kids that they cast. I thought, Ramona, which was Kimmy and Fernando's daughter, was really good. She was a good character. Just some, I mean, gosh, they've had just some. They did have some good episodes. They had some heartwarming episodes, and I liked how they ended the show. I got all us DJ and Steve fans got our happy ending that we dreamed of.
One of the things that made me most upset was like when Fuller House started, and I was like, oh, I didn't see DJ and Steve together, and I was like, I thought they would end up together.
Yeah. I gotta say, I thought, Candace and Steve had Scott had great chemistry together.
It was still there.
Their chemistry never, that's why I was kind of like, dang, I hate that they didn't really get together in real life, because that's like, a shame, even though she's happily married with her husband. Yeah. But yeah, I was like, they would have made a good real life couple. That's how much I shipped them. Yes, the shippers.
And yeah, it's not the original series.
No, no means.
But it's still a fun show.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia berries that's thrown in there, but that's not the whole thing.
And we finally got to see Kimmy's brother that she talked about the entire time on the original.
And he's kind of cool.
And he's, yeah. But so we got to see her brother on the show. So yeah.
But also, just because the time period this came out, they don't really do shows like this.
No.
And yes, it's hokey. Yes, it's cheesy, even more than the original series. But I mean, we love our Game of Thrones. We love our gangster shows and Breaking Bads and all these. They're fantastic programming, but I can't watch them with my kids.
Yeah.
And now we have this newer show that I can use, like introducing Manny to Full House.
Yeah.
But it's a fun family clean thing. It almost felt like a Girl Meets World type thing.
I enjoyed Girl Meets World. It's not the same as the original show, but it's still, I thought, was cute, and I can watch it with Sam and he enjoy it just as much.
I really enjoyed it, and I was sad to see it end, But at the same time, I was like, I'm glad it's ending here.
Here. Yeah.
And it's still good and they're not forcing it down your throat. Like you can tell when a show gets tired, and that's horrible. That is horrible.
And also, the timing is really good too, because imagine if that show was still running when Bob
And we
Saget
lost
passed,
Bob. Yeah.
or the legal issues that Lori Loughlin was going
Laura
through.
Hoffman's going through some
Like,
heavy
yeah,
stuff.
that show could have really had a hard time trying to address that.
Yeah.
But either way,
But I have seen, I actually follow John Stamos on TikTok, and him and Lori still hang out and get together and say, so things are good on their end. So yeah, she's got things settled out, but they definitely still get together and they do funny TikToks together, and it's great. I love seeing that. I'm happy.
well, we've got a few other things to mention real quick. We had mentioned it a couple times in the show already, but there are count them, folks, two podcasts out there that are about Full House and from the original cast.
Yeah.
Dave Coulier has his own podcast called Full House Rewind, and Jody Sweeten and Andrea Barber, they have How Rude Tanneritos. And both these are fantastic. They have a lot of guests from the show, as well as other people who've been involved in some form. So if you are completely unaware that these exist, go check them out. They're really, really
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Full House in pop culture. This show was huge, and there was quite a bit of merch on the show, which I wasn't expecting when I was a kid. But there were books on Stephanie, like chapter books.
Yeah. Yep.
Did you ever have any of those?
I did. I did.
Did you
Yeah.
actually read them?
I did. Can't tell you what they were about now, but I did. I remember very much.
Now, I'm sure you Slimesters will remember, but do you three remember not the Scholastic Book Fair, but whenever you'd get those little one sheet pamphlet things that you could open over that had those books in it that you could order
Mhm.
and they would be sent
Oh,
to your
yeah.
classroom?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There was a Full House one, and it was an Uncle Jesse poster, like picture book.
Oh, but
Really?
Yeah, and I wanted that.
I needed this in my life.
I wanted that. I didn't care at all that it was it was the first Full House merch I saw, and I wanted this book because it was freaking Full House.
Yeah.
And Mom had even told me, this is more for girls because they like Uncle Jesse and they think he's cute, and like, so I still want it. I don't care. It's Full House. I want it. So she got it for me.
Yeah.
And I love that book. She's like, it's not a story, it's a picture book. I'm like, yeah. So it's from the show. I want to see
Mhm.
pictures from the show.
Hey, freaking production pictures? Are you trapping me? Come on. Jeez.
And there was a few other random. There was a Full House board game like that, and there was a Family Matters board game, which is ridiculous to me. They had dolls. They had I think Candace, well, not Candace. I think How Rude Tanneritos. I think they shared a picture not too long ago where they had Michelle dolls
Mhm. They did.
and a handheld Tiger Electronics game. Why? Just why? Throw those things away. I hate those things. And there were trading cards. The Tiger handheld games were garbage.
I know, but I had one.
So stupid. Did you have the Full House one or just the Tiger
No,
handheld?
I had a Little Mermaid one.
And there were trading cards. Is there anything else that you guys can think of? Did any of you have anything that was Full House merch?
Did not, but I know Dave Coulier talked about on his show. I think it was maybe like
Still the
first or
one.
second
Still the
episode.
first one.
He talked about how they had like a doll house. It was like the Full House house. They had all these Joey dolls left over and they like sent them to him. So he gave them out for Christmas to like the whole family or something. He was like, here's all these extra Joey dolls.
I didn't know they existed.
Yeah, I had no
That's-
idea
that's
until
cool.
that moment. I never saw any of that.
Well, Megan, what all do you know that Mary Kate and Ashley were a part of?
Oh gosh. Fashion Empire's a big one because they had their own, they still to this day have their own fashion line that they manage and run. They when they are like the youngest known, I think, millionaires at their age. They were millionaires at the show ended. They were about eight or nine, and they were already millionaires because they had already started a fashion line at that point. They had started their own production company with Dull Star Entertainment. They did that, and then that's when a lot of their videos they were making together. The You're Invited videos, the sleepover, the mission.
Brother for sale, only 50.
Yes, only 50 cents. Yeah, yeah. The sleepover one was always my favorite. I can't tell you how many times I watched that with the girls I used to babysit.
P-I-C-C-A. Give me pizza.
There's a slow down version of that. Yeah.
Hey.
It's freaky.
Are you ready to play?
Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier. I don't remember if it was in the episode or pre-episode, but Manny had mentioned America's Funniest Home Videos with Bob Saget, and we were Megan and I were talking about it just not too long ago. How much we miss the Bob Saget era.
I loved the Bob Saget era of America's Funniest Video. His
the
voices,
the
and
jokes. Yeah.
it was just so.
Even the theme song.
Yeah,
Like, I still hear that playing.
Oh, yes.
And
it was a whole other show. It's not AFV. It's its own show.
And the thing about this is, I remember the beginning, whenever, because I used to watch, this was the Sunday night ritual with my family. We watched it every Sunday night. And I remember when the show started, they had those little previews of here's some of the things you're going to see in this episode. And then they would show, like, it was an extra room, like another sound room somewhere. And they would put a little set in there.
Yes, yeah.
And they would do something.
The audience.
They would do something in it, and then it would pan out into where you could see the audience and see the main set, and Bob Saget would come through this
the door
of a house.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of times that I remembered one very distinctly where it was the Full House set, and it was Dave Coulier and John Stamos, and they were watching the TV, and they were talking about how this guy on this Bob Saget looks like Danny. And I remembered that. I've never forgotten that. Ever.
Hey, Joey, where's Danny? He's going to the hockey game.
Oh, yeah, he said something about having to cash a big check.
Yeah. We'll just stay here and watch this video show until he comes back.
Oh, yeah, the one where the guy kind of looks like Danny?
Oh, the guy in that show is much better looking than Danny.
Hey, Jess, have you ever noticed that when we watch this show together, Danny's never home?
Nah.
That was funny.
But I am...
That was a great clip.
But I'm so happy that whoever posted that. I mean, thank you. I'll put a link in the description so you guys can go watch it if you want. But I'm so happy that person put that video up.
Yes, thank you.
And also, in that same episode, John had mentioned to Dave, we got to hurry up because your show is going to get started in a few minutes, because Dave was doing America's Funniest People, which did not last nearly as long, obviously, as Funniest Home Videos. But I think I went for 2-3 seasons. I think it's 2 seasons. But the same voice that he did for Mr. Woodchuck, he did the same thing for this little jackrabbit. Where this thing would have antlers.
Oh, a jackalope.
Here we go, right in the
But Dave also provided his voice for Muppet Babies, Real Ghostbusters. He did the voice of Peter Venkman. He was not the only one. When I think Ghostbusters, I think of the other person who provided the voice, who also was the voice of Garfield. But Dave Coulier also did.
Does sound like.
And of course, the Nickelodeon Connection. He was also in Out of Control in the 80s. And also we had mentioned Scott was the Aladdin.
Yeah, and Mary Kate and Ashley did their 2 shows outside of Full House, So Little Time, Two of a Kind. I watched both of those, and I loved them both.
But the internet connection, I'm sorry, not the Nickelodeon connection for me, because Boy Meets World, we had quite a few connections, but Full House has a whole lot more connections to Nickelodeon than Boy Meets. Like, oh my gosh, there's a ton. So I went through the supporting characters just to see who all I could find that had worked on some Nickelodeon project in the 90s. If it was 2000s on, I didn't count it. So I'm going to list these names real quick. I'm not going to give you all the details. I'll just tell you what Nickelodeon show they were a part of. But going through this real quick, Mary Pat Gleason was on an episode of Secret World of Alex Mack. Michelle Nicastro was on Rugrats and Angry Beavers. Phyllis Diller, who I'm sure some of you might know, was on Hey Arnold and Wild Thornberrys.
Great comedian.
Bruce Baum was on Out of Control with Dave Coulier. Malachi Pearson was on an episode of Kenan and Kel. Doris Roberts was on Wild Thornberries and Our Real Monsters. Ed McMahon, one of our big stars that we mentioned earlier, was also provided his voice for Angry Beavers. Miko Hughes also was on Out of Control. Megan Berwick, ZZ from Salute Your Shorts, was on an episode
We
of.
just watched that episode.
Mhm,
13
we did.
Candles, DJ's 13th birthday. Yep.
Riff Hutton, you guys know how I am with words. Secret World of Alex Mack. Jason Allen was on an episode of Hey Dude. Glenn Morshower was on Secret World of Alex Mack. Keith, I'm gonna say Keith, it's spelled really weird. Farley was provided as the voice for Rugrats. Jason Clay was on an episode of Pete and Pete. He was one of the swimmers, which was kind of fun. June Lockhart provided a voice for Ren and Stimpy. David Lasher, who was the main character, Ted, on Hey Dude, was on an episode. Was on the Take My Sister Please episode. Barney Martin, who also has his own podcast, Hey Dude, the 90s called. Barney Martin provided the voice on Real Monsters. And there's our turkey man. Whitman Mayo was on Kenan and Kel. What? Turkey! Tia and Tamara were on an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Roger Floyd was on an episode of Welcome Freshman. Holy crap! Brian Robbins, who was on the Captain Video Part 1. He is now the CEO of Nickelodeon.
Yep, Brian Robbins from all that.
But yeah, he produced all that, produced Good Burger, produced Oh Yeah cartoons, and the Nickelodeon Sports Theater on one sneak block. He was in Full House. I didn't know that. Denise Dowse was on Rugrats. Mary Ellen Dunbar was on Rugrats and All Real Monsters. I'm really surprised to see this a few times. Peggy O'Neill was on Mystery Files of Shelby Woo, and Lee Dawson also was on Shelby Woo. But Jim Coleman, he was the father on My Brother and Me, and he was on the second episode of the Disney episode because he was with the band that was playing with Michelle.
Yes.
Ben Stein, we all know Ben Stein, Bueller. He was on an episode of All Real Monsters and Rugrats. Marsha Wallace was on an episode of Angry Beavers. Beverly Archer, All Real Monsters. Jason Marsden, who was in everything. Oh my gosh! But he was, he was the voice of Max from Goof Troop
from Full House,
and was on recurring character was on so many different Boy Meets World.
He's done a lot of voice work.
But he was on an episode of Secret World of Alex Mack and Daniil Judovitz, who I actually got to speak with, and I was planning to do a live Instagram with her, but it just didn't work out. But she provided her voice for Kablam. She is the voice of Loopy on Life with Loopy, and also provided her voice on Hey Arnold. Scott Menville was on an episode of Rugrats. Lisa Dinkins on Rugrats. Will Estes on Alex Mack. Tyrese Allen on Kenan and Kel. And three other quick reference. Well, I would say four. Candace Cameron, in all three, the first three, she was host for the Kids' Choice Awards one year. She was on an episode of Double Dare. I think she was on 2 episodes of Double Dare. And she also was the guest host on Real Mature, which we had talked about on our favorite Nickelodeon pilots. And it did air on Nickelodeon a couple of times, and it was going to be SNL for kids with a guest host every week. And they only did 1 episode, and Candace Cameron was the host for it. But also there was an episode of Full House where they looked into the garage or Joey's room or something and said, "Man, this room is more messy than on Double Dare." There's quite a bit of Nickelodeon connection, but there, we're done with that, and we have our quick segment for the episode. I'm really excited about this. So we are going to go into Say What.
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
Say what?
All right, everybody here knows how we play this game. For all of you, it is quite simple. We have some quotes, and we are going to try to guess. I don't even know the answers to this. Kat made these questions for us, and I'm really excited. I was hoping we could do a famous catchphrases thing, and
Yeah, we do need to point out some catchphrases.
and I think Kat's already got us covered on some of these. So raise your hand when you think you know it. So our first question, for 1 point, who says "No way, Jose"?
Michelle.
Megan's hand was for Megan gets 1 point. One.
Michelle.
Question number 2, also for 1 point. Hola, Tanneritos. Oh, that was a tie. I'm gonna go with Heather.
That would be Kimmy Gibbler.
That is, see, this is how sure I am. I'm not even looking at the answer. I'm just like, yep, that's Michelle. Yep, that's Kimmy. Don't even have to look at it. I know who that is. For 2 points, question 3, who says, "Oh my Lanta"?
I'm gonna give it to Heather because it's her. It's her.
Miss DJ Tanner.
That was Deej. Question 4. Question 4 for 2 points.
My favorite.
Well, pin a rose on your nose. Megan?
My favorite, Stephanie.
That was Stephanie. Megan says that one all
I
the
say it
time.
all the time.
She says it to me. Oh, whenever, like she'll be like, "Oh man, I had such a horrible day today." Like, "Oh yes, well I got to do this," and she'll be, "Well, pin a rose on your nose." Says it to me all the time.
Oh
Right.
man.
Question number 5 for 3 points. I'm just cleaning my rubber gloves. Now, is that Manny?
Manny and Danny.
It's the evil twin, Manny Tanner. You're welcome.
I don't need anything when you're not.
Yeah, when he's avoiding going on that date because he's afraid what the
Yeah.
girls are gonna think.
Was that the name he said?
Yes. This is my evil twin, Manny Tanner. Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Oh my god.
You don't remember?
I don't. Now I do.
You're welcome.
Manny Tanner. Oh.
We're gonna have to make a T-shirt of Manny Tanner just for Manny.
Yep, just for you, buddy.
Right.
Question number 6 for 3 points. My bike was totaled. Next thing I knew, concrete arms. Megan,
That's Jesse.
that.
That was season 2, episode 1.
Ah,
If you want, can I get bonus points for that?
nope.
Come on. Come on. Aha! It's she did it. Bonus point.
No bonus points for you.
Ugh.
Can I still be Stavros?
No.
Question 7 for 4 points. That's not a big problem. A big problem is like, well, if your butt fell off. Hang on, I'm going to give them a chance. All right, who is it, Megan?
Joey says that.
That was Joey in
Butt
the
fell
last
off.
season.
Yep, that was Joey.
That was worth
I
4
know.
points. Question 8. Don't shake your head. Your story's read. It's time for bed. To bed, I said.
Let's watch this.
Hang on, Manny?
Megan had her
Megan
hand
was first. Okay, go ahead.
It's Danny.
What season?
Oh, was it
Oh,
4? Season 4 maybe?
season 4.
Look at me.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah, that I think this is the episode that Michelle was like not listening very well. But we're having to break
yeah.
through the whole she's not a baby anymore, you know.
When she was eating the chicken she pulled the chicken, fried chicken out of the refrigerator.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
trying to get tough love.
Watching late night with
Oh, Christ's sake, I'm not made out of stone.
what was it?
Arsenio.
Arsenio, yeah, thank you.
Question 9 for 5 points. You don't have to be hip and cool. You're spick and span.
I'm sorry.
Megan?
It's Joey.
That is Joey.
You're
No, it's
spick
about
and
Dan.
span. You don't have to be hip and cool. You're spick and span. That's what he said.
Okay.
Oh. Dr. Evil.
Yes!
I know it. I do it.
Oh.
And final question for 5 points. I just hope you're all right. But if you're all right, I'll kill you.
I don't remember.
Megan?
No.
That would be Becky, and I'll read it like this. I just hope you're all right. But if you're all right, I'll kill you.
What season?
5. 4. That's when they get married.
Season 4.
Yeah.
It's the wedding because she's recording it. Stephanie's recording it.
Well, gee, I wonder who got the most points here.
I told you I'm obsessed.
18.
I did let them have some.
You let Heather have 3 and Manny have 3,
Sorry.
and you got 24.
Sorry.
Oh, that was fun.
Full house. Yeah, I know my full house. That's for sure. I am
I love it.
obsessed.
Well, we are going to wrap up the episode now officially with our closing question for the day, which is, what were some of your favorite Full House moments? Write to us via email at splatattack2021@gmail.com. You can DM us on all of our socials. Just look for Splat Attack Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on a podcast app, go to Splat Attack Podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, hey, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yes.
Interact with us wherever you can. As they say on Fuller House, the door is always open.
There's always a line. A line is waiting to carry you home.
I used to think that said a lion is waiting when I was a kid.
Everywhere you look.
And I was like, why is there a lion?
And bears
And-
online.
And my brother was like, it's not lion, you idiot. I'm like, what? That's what they say. But anyway, until our next episode, Manny, will you help me build the studio, please?
Not until you apologize for what you said about Wienerville.
What? I never said I hate Wienerville.
You texted it to me earlier, and I quote, I hate all Wienerville episodes.
What? Oh, no. I meant to type the word have. I have all the Wienerville episodes. I know how big of a fan you are, and I managed to find the lost episodes. I wanted to share them with you, but then you never replied back.
Oh, what? Oh, my Lanta.
Oh, have mercy. See, guess maybe the lesson here is it's really important for you both to communicate your feelings.
It would be a shame for a misunderstanding to ruin your friendship.
I feel so bad. I'm sorry for shutting you out. I guess Heather and Meg are right. We're not just co-hosts. We're friends. Can you ever forgive me?
Of course I forgive you.
Friends forever?
Friends forever. Podcast hug.
Aww.
What the heck was that?
There's no one else supposed to be here.
Yeah, that was really creepy.
Should we call security?
And then we should watch those Lost Wienerville episodes.
You got it, dude. Splat you later, Slamsters. I was just joking about a silent treatment thing, and she actually wrote that in.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm
that's
giving
awesome.
you the silent treatment.
That's awesome. Uh-oh, now you've done it. You're now issuing the silent treatment.
Yeah, I ain't saying jack.
He's not my friend. If you asked me if we were friends, I would say no to you.
That is great.
I love that one. Chuck,
We
you're not
gotta-
doing this too, are you?
We got to do Space Ghost sometime.
We do.
really
We got to
do.
find a reason to do it.